Harper Audio presents Run by Ann Patchett, performed by Peter Francis James. Copyright 2007 by Ann Patchett. Production copyright 2007 by HarperCollins Publishers. Excerpt of I Have a Dream, reprinted by arrangement with the heirs to the estate of Martin Luther King, Jr., care of Writer's House as agent for the proprietor, New York, New York. Copyright 1963 Martin Luther King, Jr., Copyright renewed 1991, Coretta Scott King. Excerpt of Mass Meeting at Holt Street Church in Montgomery, Alabama. There comes a time when people get tired. Reprinted by arrangement with the heirs to the estate of Martin Luther King, Jr., care of Writer's House, as agent for the proprietor, New York, New York. Copyright 1969, the estate of Martin Luther King, Jr., Copyright renewed 1997, Coretta Scott King. Chapter 1. Bernadette had been dead 2 weeks when her sisters showed up in Doyle's living room, asking for the statue back. They had no legal claim to it, of course. She never would have thought of leaving it to them, but the statue had been in their family for 4 generations, passing down a maternal line from mother to daughter, and it was their intention to hold with tradition. Bernadette had no daughters. In every generation there had been an uncomfortable moment when the mother had to choose between her children, as there was only one statue, and these Irish Catholic families were large. The rule in the past had always been to give it to the girl who most resembled the statue, and among Bernadette and her siblings, not that the boys ever had a chance, Bernadette was the clear winner. Iron rust hair, dark blue eyes, a long, narrow nose. It was frankly unnerving at times how much the carving looked like Bernadette, as if she had, at some point, modeled in a blue robe with a halo stuck to the back of her head. "I can't give it to you," Doyle said. "It's in the little boy's room, on the dresser. Tip and Teddy say a prayer to it at night." He kept his eyes on them steadily. He waited for an apology, some indication of backing down, but instead they just kept staring right at him. He tried again. "They believe it's actually a statue of her." "But since we have daughters," Serena said. She was the older of the two. "And the statue always passes on to a daughter." She didn't finish her thought because she felt the point had been made. She meant to handle things gracefully. Doyle was tired. His grief was so fresh he hadn't begun to see the worst of it yet. He was still expecting his wife to come down the stairs and ask him if he felt like splitting an orange. It has in the past, but it isn't a law. It can go to a son for 1 generation and everyone will survive. They looked at each other. These 2 women, these aunts, had supported their now-dead sister in her limitless quest for children, but they knew that Doyle didn't mean for the family's one heirloom to pass to Sullivan, his oldest son. He meant for the statue to go to the other ones, the little boys, as everyone called them. And why should 2 adopted sons, 2 black adopted sons, own the statue that was meant to be passed down from red-headed mother to red-headed daughter? "Because," Doyle said, "I own it now, and so I'm the one who gets to decide. Bernadette's children are as entitled to their family legacy as any other Sullivan cousin." Bernadette had always predicted that without a daughter there was going to be trouble. 2 of the boys would have to be hurt someday when it was given to the third. Still, Bernadette had never imagined this. The aunts did their best to exercise decorum. They loved their sister. They grieved for her, but they weren't about to walk away from that to which they were entitled. Their next stop was to seek the intervention of their uncle. As both a priest and a Sullivan, they thought he would see the need to keep the statue in their line, but much to their surprise, Father John Sullivan came down firmly on Doyle's side, chastising his nieces for even suggesting that Teddy and Tip should be forced to give up this likeness of their mother, having just given up Bernadette herself. If he hadn't closed the argument down then, chances are that none of the Sullivans would have ever spoken to any of the Doyles again. It was a very pretty statue as those things go, maybe 1.5 feet high, carved from rosewood, and painted with such a delicate hand that many generations later her cheeks still bore the high, translucent flush of a girl startled by a compliment. Likenesses of the Mother of God abounded in the world, and in Boston they were doubled. But everyone who saw this statue agreed
Sample complete. Ready to continue?